Hello, 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 and
I'm
welcome,
alone.
Everyone. Oh, we're live. We're live, Jen.
We're live.
Oh gosh,
Hello?
you ruined my intro. It's over. Okay, we're done. All right,
no.
we had a good run, everybody.
Pack it up.
Okay.
Sorry,
Hi.
everyone. The panel's over.
Hello. Welcome, one and all, to Starfinder Present and Future, our panel where we are going to deep dive into a bunch of announced, unannounced, recently announced stuff for mostly recently announced stuff, though there might be some secrets at the end. Hello, my name is Thurston Hillman. I am the managing creative director for Starfinder, and I am joined by two amazing panelists, and I'm going to just go in order of my screen here. Jenny, introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Jenny Jarzabski, ruiner of intros. I am a developer working on adventures here at Paizo. I primarily work on Starfinder Adventure Paths. I did work with Starfinder Society for a time before that, and I have written many adventures for both Pathfinder and Starfinder. But I have left the Starfinder Society responsibilities in the very capable hands of another amazing person on this panel.
Hi, I'm Jessica Catalan. I am the current Starfinder Society developer. I'm also in charge of our Starfinder Bounties line, and I am a very frequent freelancer for Starfinder and Pathfinder.
Very frequent, as you will find out as we go through this amazing panel. So we have a lot of stuff to touch on today. We're going to try to get through it to get some time to answer questions, because I know a lot of you have some burning questions about the future of Starfinder and what's coming out and what we've just announced. So I want to make sure we can answer as many as we can. And we've also talked about some of these things before. So in fact, the first thing we have up on our list, the Drift Crisis. Everybody, this is the big event right now. This hardback book that you can purchase in your stores on Paizo.com everywhere right now. The Drift Crisis. This is really what Starfinder is about for the next year. This is an event where the drift, the sort of hyperspace equivalent in Starfinder, shuts off and kicks everyone out. And in the aftermath of that, groups from around the galaxy have to figure out what happened. Why did the drift shut off? What happens when all interstellar travel temporarily stops and people get ejected, not only into like their own home systems, but to other planes of existence, or other planes of existence get pulled in, or alternate realities, or, oh my gosh, everything all at once. This is the Drift Crisis, and this is what you're going to be hearing us talk a good amount about. And we've sort of talked about this in prior panels, but really this is something, just want to keep it fresh in your heads, because this is going to color a lot of our future topics here, and in fact some of the things we're going to be hitting on. But we've talked about that a lot, so let's move on to our next one. And I'm going to put this one into the capable hands of Jessica Catalan as we talk a little bit about our upcoming module, Redshift Rally.
Yes, Redshift Rally is a Starfinder adventure for 7th level characters. You'll be 10th level by the end. It's out right now. In this one, you play as competitors in the Absalom run, working for a company called Redshift Revolution. You helped them build the starship that they're entering this year, and due to an unfortunate accident at the adventure's beginning, you take over as racers. You'll also be looking into this accident throughout, which you suspect is some sabotage caused by a different racing team. Now, usually the Absalom run is an interplanetary starship race, but this year the races are more diverse and the prizes are bigger than ever. You'll be tackling 3 starship races. That's the Armada Trial, the Bissine Run, and the Battle over Avalon. And there's also the Tenebrous Swell, which is a boat race on Octarn, and Climatica, which is an overland race on Verxes through 3 different climate zones in hover cars, which is what you'll see part of on the cover. Beyond racing, you have a mystery to solve in this one, and my very favorite part, a whole lot of fun social encounters. This is a scenario packed full of events with other racers and with media personalities, including Zoe. You'll also have some tough decisions to make throughout some of these races, whether winning is more important than maybe the lives of a fellow racer, stuff like that. I just really had a blast on this adventure. There are a lot of fun characters to interact with, and your relationships with them matter throughout this one. In the back, you'll find history of the Absalom run, a racer archetype, and all kinds of cool stuff like that, new vehicle modifications. And the goofiest article I've probably ever written, I got to write an in-character article about all the competitors in the Absalom run, all the other racing teams, and I got to write it in character as a racing commentator, awesome Ace Averin, who is age above them, and I love her so much. She's amazing. There's even a now a word from our sponsor style commercial in there.
Jabubnin's
It's just
best.
a lot of fun.
Jabubnin's best.
Jabubnins.
Oh yeah, I like them so much.
They're pretty
This
cool.
is definitely a joyous kind of adventure. Like it's exciting and it's danger, but it's not like a heavy style thing. This is a fun, dynamic, I guess, kind of a story. The kind of story you can't really tell in Pathfinder.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear too that it's not just your standard racing, that there's other types of racing going on. So heck yeah.
Definitely.
All right. So that brings us, I think, to our next big topic, which I've had a lot of people asking me about. That would be Interstellar Species, our next
Ooh.
big fancy hardback that's coming out in the coming months. First of all, let's talk about what's in this book, because I think a lot of people really want to hear a bit of what's going to be in this and why it will matter for their campaigns, because there is a lot here, both for players and GMs. First of all, new class. Everyone loves a new class, right? We have the Evolutionists. This lets you transform yourself over time into eldritch beings, mechanized constructs, undead biological things, all with cool abilities, some drawbacks maybe, and you can even let that transformation grow out of control. And that's the new class. We've sort of seen a bit of that. The Evolutionists will be coming out with this book, but on top of that, we have some other really, really cool things going on in this book. We have a deep dive on several different species. In fact, 25 playable species in this book get a get like a section and get some deep dive on them. We have thematic player options, as you're used to with our books, for a variety of classes. We have information on these species, societies, homeworlds, naming structures, and in fact, we include a system maybe for you GMs out there, or even you enterprising players, for building your own playable species, from physiology, culture to mechanics, so you can build your own species for when you are, maybe wanting to maybe wanting to make your own species, make your own little corner of the Starfinder universe. So let's keep that in mind as we dive into Interstellar Species. Also, new class options as mentioned for our new classes like the Precog and the Nanocyte, all of our other classes, and dozens of thematic NPCs. In fact, I think there's close to 100 or something NPCs in here, from assassins, sports figures, tyrants, things you can drop into your game, that are just going to help you, again, as the GM, something that will really, really give you the tools that you need for your games. And going back, Jessica, you worked on this book, didn't you?
Of course I did.
You work on everything.
It's almost like she's good at it.
Yeah, I do actually.
Mm-hmm.
Did something to get me here.
That's right.
So another thing I'd like to mention that I did work on for Interstellar Species is it starts with a big chart of all the playable species in Starfinder at the time of printing. Each has a little headshot and a sentence about them and their source, which is really super useful. We just have so many species in Starfinder, and just having them all in a single place just to be there, I like that one. It's really great. And yeah, Interstellar Species has a lot of fun species in it. Some were announced at the keynote yesterday, if you haven't seen it, like uplifted bears and raxalites and cephalooms. But I wanted to shout out two that I really loved. One is Shimmerine, which are one of my very favorite playable species. I was very thrilled to get to write them. And the other, which I had nothing to do with, is kobolds. I believe it was John Compton who wrote them, and their story is just so unique and fun and really Starfinder, and I love them so much. I'm really excited that they got some full attention in this book. Also, the NPC stat blocks, I know Thurston just mentioned them, but they're really flavorful. Every single one has very thematic abilities based on what their niche is or what role they're supposed to play and stuff, so I'm really excited for how useful these are going to be just spontaneously. And those are some of the things that I got to work on. I also got to work on some of the character options. I got to do some mechanic options, which are kind of thematically tied to Shimmerines. and their culture. And I also got to work on some nanosite options, which are mechanically tied to the cephalooms.
Nice. And yeah, the kobolds, one of the cool thing about kobolds is that it is our updated Pathfinder 2 style art of kobolds in space. So look forward to that. We also, I was told I had to mention the holy trinity of kobolds, uplifted bears, and Patra. So, you know, we've got all sorts of things covered in Interstellar Species. Now that brings us to our adventures line a little bit here for what's coming up and what's either out or around the bend. The next little item we have to talk about, and I'm going to pass this over to Jenny, is to talk about the adventure path that just got released very recently, our Drift Crashers AP that ties right into our Drift Crisis event.
Yeah, so I did talk some about this yesterday, so I won't go super in depth, but Drift Crashers is just this really cool campaign that's like, what if you went on a journey? Big time, like, Space Odyssey, like Voyager vibes. You are getting stuck in the middle of the Drift Crisis. You are possibly random people, possibly celebrities, heroes, mercenaries. You can create whatever background you want for your adventuring party, but all of you are on a ship when you get trapped in the drift crash, which is the mysterious event that spits ships out of the drift and into all sorts of weird places. You actually get there's some spoilers, but this has already been spoiled pretty well, that immediately you go to hell. Do not pass go, do not collect 200 credits. You are in hell now, and you have immediately come into the sights of an Arini's devil who is kind of mad at you for just existing. So you and your crew have to figure that out. And you get to maneuver the wild world of the Drift Crisis with the help of a special artifact. It is this special chaos sail that allows your ship to travel great distances faster than light travel, but instead of using the drift, you're moving through the plains. So you can only imagine all the fantastic locations that the ship is going to visit, whether the crew likes it or not. And trust me, you will. It's a lot of fun. Jessica Redicop, one of our amazing veteran freelancers who is known for their planar shenanigans, has written the first volume. It is a real doozy, The Perfect Storm. Super great. That will be followed up by Nightmare Scenario, which I actually got to write. And I got to portray one of my favorite deities in our shared Pathfinder Starfinder universe, which is Desna. And you, actually, as the characters, will get to have brunch with her. So, have fun with that. Maybe you can even become a magical girl of Desna as well, because there's some player options at the back of that book.
Ooh, fancy. So that is Drift Crash.
Yes, I love it so much. Good. I was so happy when I saw it. It was everything I wanted.
Well, that's not all, because after Drift Crashers of the Perfect Storm, we have Drift Hackers, and we are once again graced with someone who did some writing. Surprise, surprise. Jessica, once again, I'm just gonna pat my hands here and pass it over to you to talk about Drift Hackers here for a bit.
So Drift Hackers is very much the story of how you can bring the Drift Crisis to a close. It is our canonical ending to this event. It takes place entirely in Alluvion, which is really falling apart during the Drift Crisis, like literally. So it begins at level 7. Triune is absent, even from Alluvion, their holy city in the Drift. Triune's church is fracturing into sects based on Triune's components and really throwing blame. Some have even barricaded themselves in Triune's temple. Meanwhile, the city citizens are in dire trouble. Their city is crumbling around them. Their governing force, the Church of Triune, just isn't in a place to help them anymore. And amid this turmoil, the PCs get pulled in by a drift anomaly and just dumped on the doorstep of Alluvion. They become embroiled in the city's politics, but also with saving the people of Alluvion. Also, quite literally, you get to enter a digital space and repair the drift and try to save Triune. So this is a really big, important story to the Drift Crisis, but where Drift Crashers is over the top and fabulous in its wackiness and unpredictability, Drift Hackers is a big story very much grounded in the people around you who need your help, but still wacky and over the top, especially the finale of this one. I'm really excited for it. So book 1 is A Light in the Dark by myself. Book 2 is Clockwork Demons by the wonderful Quinn Murphy. And book 3 is Into the Dataverse by Alex Agunas.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited for this one, especially as it does kind of wrap up the Drift Crisis, at least as far as what our canonical ending will be. But that doesn't affect your campaigns, and you can do a whole bunch of things with it. And that's not quite all. And this is where we're going off the space rails. We're having a drift crisis
Oh
of our
no.
own in this panel. We're going to talk about some of the new stuff, some of the stuff that's coming up and has maybe just recently been announced or sort of on the horizon. And the first one still ties into the Drift Crisis event. This is our new stuff going forward. And I'm going to pass it over to Jenny to talk about the Drift Crisis case files.
Yeah, so we actually just had this announced. Drift Crisis Case Files is kind of an experimental adventure. We are actually, instead of one module, it is 3 smaller adventures put into like the space of one module at different level ranges. So your first is level 3 or 4 you could play. The next is for players level 7 to 8. And then the third is for 10 or 11th level players. And they are all interconnected. They can be played as episodes, but they do truly work best when they're played as a trilogy. This is sort of meant to kind of seamlessly fit into an organized play campaign or a campaign using that style of episodes. So you could build your own mystery campaign. The whole theme of the Drift Crisis case files, I should say, is space noir. The intention was to have sort of an investigation and intrigue adventure all set on Absalom Station, focusing on the players as either eyes wide agents, these detectives, some of whom are psychic, some of whom are con artists, some are just regular old gumshoes trying to solve a mystery. All of these folks work together, working for or with the agency, who has an influx of all sorts of cases of missing people, missing objects, all kinds of stuff, because the Drift Crisis just, took took the world and shook it up like a giant Jenga tower falling down. So the Drift Crisis case files is all about those eyes wide agents and contractors who are trying to solve cases and find missing people, help people in the aftermath of the Drift Crisis. You get to meet some familiar faces around Absalom Station, as well as some new people. I really am excited, though. I think that these 3 adventures will be great. You can add this into your home campaign as like little one-shots, or like I said, with org play, or just start and just run your players through with pre-gens or with their own characters at the levels. It is a lot of fun, and the authors absolutely killed it on the theme. I don't think we have the art, but a lot of this concept actually started with art of this noir, like our bull people, like our minotaur people, dressed in a trench coat and a fedora with a cigar. And the idea was, oh, this is the noir, right? Like, haha, get it? That character is actually going to be like the main, the kind of task manager handler for the players' characters. So I and the authors who worked on it got to write some in their voice. It was a lot of fun. I think it's going to be a really fun read and a really fun game to play. So check it out.
Yeah. So Drift Crisis case files, that's going to be in our module line. Very exciting. Kind of a little bit of a side series of adventures you can run if you're doing any of our adventure paths, or just run them in your own campaigns. Really, really fun and exciting and different than some of the modules we've done.
Yes.
Now, going back to some of the other announcements, I know we've talked about it a bunch, but it bears repeating: the Dead Suns compilation. Let's not forget about the first Starfinder adventure path, Dead Suns, getting compiled into a big 300 plus page hardback book for first time in a while, since Dead Suns 1 isn't really available in print right now. You too can go and get the big Dead Suns adventure path compilation. We're very excited to sort of have that be hitting the markets, and then have people who maybe didn't get the chance because things were sold out. That's gonna be coming out. Now, we've talked about that a lot, but something we haven't talked about. Oh boy, excitement, everybody. Let's talk about something Eric Rona announced in our keynote, Portugal. This is our newly announced hardcover book, 192 page hardcover, designed to support galaxy-wide travel and exploration through a whole bunch of settlement gazetteers. It's going to present like a bunch of potential destinations, bases of operations, travel hubs, and even adventure starting. Each of these ports is going to present exciting character options, including 4 new playable species in the book, some of which might have some interesting connections. And it's also going to provide a whole wide array of like GM tools and adventures, or 4 adventures, I should say, about exploration and travel, talking about information about how to travel the galaxy, including a galaxy map, which I know some people out there have been quite interested in, a host of NPC contacts usable in any location, and a collection of side jobs, tons of adventure hooks. This is kind of the thing that is going to build out our galaxy even more and give you more places that you can set your adventures in, or even stop by as part of an adventure. And to talk a bit about that, surprise, Jessica Catalan wrote some words for this.
Yay!
I sure did. So I'm really excited about Ports of Call. Okay, this is a book that has deep dives into some existing locations, but also into brand new locations we haven't had a chance to even mention before. Just really some wild ones. So this is narrated by an adorable pair of friends who provide great commentary throughout and little sideboards that really bring the book to life. And there are some odd places like Galarian World, which got mentioned in the keynote yesterday, and there's some wonderful art for it, so check that out. It is a theme park planet that imitates Lost Galarian. It is over the top and amazing and absurd, and I cannot wait to read all about it. One of the places that I wrote for this book, and I'm excited to preview, is Izadamar. This is a city on Agalai 4, which is one of the planets in the Scoured Stars system. The Scoured Stars is a really important location to the Starfinder Society. It heavily features into our first season, and it's a place I grew to love through those early scenarios of the Starfinder Society, those adventures that helped set me on the path to being where I am today. So it was a really wonderful experience to take this location that we've only mentioned in the Starfinder Society adventures and do a really deep dive into what it could be like today. So we get to bring back some old faces, people like Jad Nura, the retired first speaker of the Starfinder Society, and some Izel Goon and some other people, and also make entirely new people to round out this world. So Agalai 4 is an ancient, hyper-industrialized megacity that's fallen to ruin. It's originally built by Izel Goons. They fled long ago to escape their controlling god Catrical, and they settled elsewhere. Meanwhile, the Jin Souls have moved in and turned this planet into a military bases and encampments and such. But now they've fled. Or have they? Some Izel Goons have returned, and they've begun rebuilding their ancient homeworld. And they're trying to restore this place, not just knock things down and rebuild. They're trying to rediscover and repair and re-inhabit. So Izadamar has like 4 main neighborhoods. We've got like the core at the city center. We have the hub, which is utilizing some like Jinsel roadworks and infrastructure. We have the sprawl beyond that, which is more re-inhabited housing along Izel Goon roadways and stuff. And then the ruin. This is the dangerous, unexplored, unrepaired ruins beyond the repopulated portions of the city. And the ruin stretches well beyond Izadamar's borders. There's rumors of Jinsels and ghosts lurking out in the ruins, and certainly all kinds of technological defenses and robots and all kinds of fun stuff. So also here you'll find Izel Goons who never fled, researchers from the Pact Worlds and the Vast, places like Castrovel, Triaxis. You'll find corporations like Frozen Trove, the Aspis Consortium, followers of Catrical, and many people who use Izadamar as a jumping off point, as sort of base of operations for exploring the rest of the Scoured Stars system. There's also some other species from the Scoured Stars here, which is people like the Theer. These are intelligent gases who reside in containment suits so that they can better interact with their surroundings, and they communicate telepathically. They were introduced years ago, but only now in this book will they be a playable species. They're one of the 4 new species that you will find in Ports of Call.
Yeah. And that sounds pretty cool, because those Theers, they play into maybe the next thing we're going to be talking about. Was announced at the keynote, that I'm excited, because this has been my raison d'etre for the past several months, along with our interactives, which I hope you're enjoying here at for those of you at Gen Con. But my big project and secret one has been just announced, and that is the Scoured Stars Adventure Path. As Jessica was just talking about, the Scoured Stars is a location that came out when Starfinder launched. It was the sort of area we wanted to explore, or at least build background into, as part of our first season of Starfinder Society. And it really made the first season of Starfinder Society what it was. It's kind of that story area for it. The Scoured Stars Adventure Path is a new type of adventure path. So starting with the Scoured Stars Adventure Path, we're changing up how adventure paths are working for Starfinder. We'll be moving away from the sort of bi-monthly releases of our softbacks, and instead we're going to be producing hardback adventure paths. And we're gonna talk a bit more about that, but I want to focus on the Scoured Stars first. Primarily, that this adventure path and this new format, I should say, for hardbacks allows us to experiment with things we have never been able to do before. So we've had a lot of people who've said that the Scoured Stars was one of their favorite Starfinder stories. But we also know there are a lot of people out there who don't play in our organized play program and have never been able to experience those stories. And maybe organized play isn't their type of thing. Maybe they just weren't aware of it. Whole bunch of reasons. However, we thought it would be great to take those adventures that so many people loved and bring them all together, or at least as many as we could, as many as they would let me, into a hardback adventure path. And so the Scoured Stars Adventure is a 256-page hardback adventure book that spans the course of 12 unique adventures going from levels 1 to 15. Now, you may be wondering, how is that going to work? Well, 2 of the adventures are actually 2 interactive specials, those big events we put on at conventions where, dozens, hundreds of tables play through the same scenario. Those have been recompiled and turned into individual adventures as well, though they're sort of double-length specials. So that gives us effectively 14 adventures worth of content that is going to take your players from 1st to 15th level. We kind of leave some high end stuff because maybe we want to explore that someday. But with that, this is going to be another experiment from us, in that those of you who've played organized play and know some of these scenarios, you'll know that there might not be as much content or as many encounters as you would expect in like an adventure path, a typical adventure path, I should say. So one of the things that the Scoured Stars does is it introduces milestone leveling, something that a lot of gaming groups out there do inherently. A lot of gaming groups have been doing for a while now. We're actually trying to bake that into the Scoured Stars. And in fact, this is going to be a different approach to adventures, in that each of these adventures, with the exception of the double stuffed specials, can essentially be played in 4 to 5 hours of gameplay, which means, tried, tested, and true, you can play through this whole adventure path in about 70 hours of gameplay. If you're, kind of pushing it, but you can do that. So you can have that 1 to 15th level experience, a whole campaign in that. Now, that means that these are going to be shorter installments. We're including in this a whole bunch of additional content in the Scoured Stars to really help out with that. There's going to be, your typical things you can expect, like the campaign synopsis. There's going to be how to run the Scoured Stars. That's going to talk about, like, how do you do milestone leveling? Do you have players who really love mechanics and building a character? Well, this might be perfect for them because it lets them basically level up every session. Do you have a group that really likes building starships? Okay, cool. Maybe you're going to build starships at these, or upgrade your starship at these milestone points. Or maybe your players aren't really into the starship side and you just design it for them. There's a whole bunch of different ways of handling it. And then, along with that, we're also going to be providing a whole bunch of miscellaneous content in back matter. Don't want to get too much into it, but as was mentioned, the Fear are a playable species that showed up in the or now a playable species. They were a species that showed up in the Scoured Star storyline, but never had playable stats. There might be a couple other playable species, maybe 1 or 2 from a certain Cryhome Freehold that never got playable stats. So we might be closing that hole, so to speak, and allowing people to play all these different species. So really, really, this is a different approach to adventure paths. And before anyone is like, oh no, they're switching to milestone for everything, that is not the case. We're experimenting. This hardback change allows us to do some really, really interesting tests with adventure paths. Some people really like experience. Some people don't use it in their home campaigns. We want to play around with that. So expect to see some new and interesting changes to our adventure path line as we get into this to this new hardback, and we'll probably talk a little bit about it in the QA. But I want to wrap up real quick before we get to the QA, because I do want to give you guys a lot of time for questions today. So get those questions ready with two additional products. The next one that I want to quickly touch on is the Deck of Endless NPCs. This is something that Joe Piscini has been working on, is coming out in the coming months. This is more than 100 unique NPC cards that combined into millions of ways to give you an NPC that has a role, a goal, a trait, a potential secret, maybe some basics like different species and alignments. For those of you who've seen Joe's amazing Deck of Endless World, this is going to be a tool that is going to help you build those NPCs that you need for your campaign if you're GMing. You can see a whole bunch of different species on the cover there. I recognize a few of those little cute. Look at that little Gabrani in the corner, Khazar in the other corner, Bantred, this is going to be an opportunity for those GMs out there who want to make some who want to make some NPCs for their game and maybe just get inspiration. So there you go. We got the Deck of Endless NPCs coming out. And from our license partners, a really quick shout out to Pirates of Skydock. That is, in fact, releasing at Gen Con over at the Gale Force 9 booth. That's booth 621 if you're at the convention. This is a heist-based board game. Go check it out. It's got a whole bunch of Starfinder flavoring to it, where you and your band are going on and performing a heist. So yeah, go check that out. All right, now let us open up with some questions from the audience. I'm gonna have this pretty free form. I'm gonna throw them in there. One of the questions that I'll say, and feel free to start throwing them into the chat, but before we get too deep into them, I'll start us off with one. Jen, what do you think about the hardback change for Adventure Paths? Does that got you excited? What do you think about that change we got and what that might mean for us?
I think it's pretty exciting. I really do like the idea of being able to approach each hardback, each adventure as its own thing. Like sometimes we will want to use milestone leveling and enable a longer level range. Like maybe one day we will get like some good 1 to 20 adventure paths because of milestone leveling. Who knows? Like we've got all kinds of stuff. We can do more compendiums, maybe like like the Drift Crisis case files. So I'm just excited because it means that we can be creative, but we can also listen to what you want in the community, like what kinds of games you want to be running, you want prepped and ready-made for you. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Jenny confirmed 1 to 20. Yes. Uh-oh. You just
confirmed
1 to 20, Jenny.
I did not confirm anything. Okay, hold on. Who's the space menace now, Thirsty? Like someone called me that earlier. Right. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair.
Oh, and really quick question that was asked in chat. I'm going to jump at this because it's important. Milestone leveling is essentially leveling up your players at specific points in the story rather than tracking experience for individual PCs. Instead, it's when you reach a certain point in the story, the GM just tells the players, okay, you level up at this point. So that is it's a different way of doing leveling than, say, how people might dole out experience for individual threats or specific encounters. Mm-hmm. It's more story and thematic based. If you're doing something like Scoured Stars, where we have these 12 adventures, but on their own, they're actually like smaller adventures. So a lot of people do that innately in their games now. I know a lot of GMs who don't track experience anymore, but again, we're not moving away from that for forever and ever. We're just trying it out. So. Let's see what other questions. Are there any plans to create more high-level adventures like 13 to 20 Devastation Arc? I can tell you for a fact there is some stuff that will go higher than 15th level in the works. That is what I will say on that. So you keep waiting around here, folks, for some higher than. I'm not going to confirm if it goes up to 20, but I will confirm there is higher than 15th level. Let's see here. High level would be appreciated.
I saw another one. Here's a silly one. So Thirsty, what's that in the background? Is that a squirrel? You've got a raccoon, but I think I see a squirrel back there.
No, there's no. And you don't see.
I know what it is.
You're not seeing anything. You're not seeing anything. Oh, unless you mean. Wait, I don't want to fall over. Look at this cute bear.
Don't die, Thirsty.
Look at this cute bear. Look at him. Look at him. In fact, here. Well, wait. I believe there are some people right now in the Sagamore Ballroom who might be watching and can't hear our voices. So here, I'm just going to hold this up. Hey, for all you people in the Sagamore Ballroom who can't hear my voice. You organized play players and all you GMs and all you HQ staff. This is where Alex needs to be looking up and be like, voice. Hey. Well, they can't hear any of us, but when they rewatch it, they'll know. Someone will see. That's right. Okay. Parse Potatoes asks, one thing I like about Starfinder Society Adventure is here's your pay, complete the scenario, get a batch of credits, no worries about selling loot. Is that also done in Scoured Stars? Yes. Part of the sort of discussion we have about milestone leveling is how to give wealth to your players. And in fact, this adventure path will kind of lean more on the give the players more rather than less. And gives essentially just payments for each adventure. And there's a few different ways it talks about doing it for you as a GM, depending on what your party's preferences are. Any plans on expanding galactic trade, linking it with the Drift Crisis stuff like Portugal? Hey, Jessica, you worked on Portugal. Do you remember from that outline if there's any galactic trade and maybe some drift lane things happening there?
There sure is. I missed part of the question. I'm going back to find it. Yes. So at the end of Drift Crisis, coming at the end of, Drift hackers and all that, when drift travel is kind of back to normal, sort of, maybe, there are new drift lanes. And drift lanes are kind of like hyperspace highways that you can kind of latch onto and shoot off into new places, and they're like kind of stable. So Ports of Call allows us to use these drift lanes to visit new places we've never seen before, all kinds of new locations. So you will definitely find information on things like that. You'll also find ports who specifically are like a hub for drift lanes, that kind of thing. So yes, you can expect that in Ports of Call.
Awesome. Some quick questions I'll go through. How many niches does the final version of the Evolutionist get? I just pulled up the PDF because I have the power. It'll still be the 4, but don't worry, we will always be looking at upgrading as we come out with new products. Might have thrown it out there on all social media, but going to put this out there. This is from Night Race. With the Scoured Stars from Org Play making the hop into a more main story with an AP, can we expect this to be more consistent, at least in Starfinder? Well, one thing, now that I am the managing creative director, I come from an organized play background. I think having consistency and continuity between our organized play program and the main campaign just does wonders for both ends. So expect that there will be cool tie-ins. I know that, Jessica and I have talked. Maybe the story of the Scoured Stars is not quite over yet. There might be some follow-ups that happen there, as you can even see in Ports of Call. Keep an eye out. So if Scoured Stars does well, could we see other SFS plot lines return as well? I think that I think that might be in the cards. Would everyone here not agree? Like, hey, if Scoured Stars sells out well, I know a conniving Yosoki who wants her time in the spotlight, right?
And she's got snacks for everybody.
That's right. So there's some. Yeah, I think there's a pretty solid chance of that. I'm not going to talk about the evolutionist stuff. Just seeing that. I don't know. One sec, Jen. Not going to talk about the evolutionist changes from the playtest too much. I'm going to save that for our designers when they are able to talk about it closer to the book's release. But there are certainly some changes that have occurred. So don't you worry. But you were saying, Jen.
Oh no, I was going to say in a similar vein, I saw some questions earlier about how Paizo decides to reprint like previous adventure paths, because obviously it's not something we do all the time, but we have done it, and it's kind of like, with Dead Sun, some of those volumes were actually out of print, and you could only get them in like actual book form on eBay or something for a ridiculous amount of money. So some of that is concerns about like, hey, we've run like, it's time for a reprint, like, or let's make a special edition. We're not going to probably reprint every adventure that we ever do, obviously, but it is something that, we do occasionally decide to do. Don't worry though, it is not going to take away from your new content. There will be plenty of new rules, new adventures. Don't worry.
Absolutely. And following up on that, I see a question here from Delirious 2019. Will the hardback APs going forward be the size of 3-part APs or just depending on the adventure? Absolutely, depending on the adventure. We might see smaller projects. We might see some bigger projects. It's all going to see. We're Scoured Stars is really going to be the first of something that's not just a flat compilation of the prior AP. And even like Dead Suns has some changes. Scoured Stars has a bit more significant changes because we're taking out some orc playisms, swapping levels around, adding retweaking encounters here and there. So we're refining this process as we go on. And it's important to note that, yeah, these aren't all going to be compilations. So don't worry about that. And we'll say a bit more on that later. Let's see here. Tank scale weapons for custom vehicles, mods from TechRev. Seems like a lot of people like the TechRev stuff.
Yeah.
I can say that there are new vehicle modifications in Redshift Rally. You will not find tank scale weapons for them, though. Sorry.
Well, maybe we got some ideas on where we can go, because I think tank scale weapons could be good. Are the hardcover single APs written by smaller, more involved group of writers, or is it similar to old APs where every book was written by a different person? This is excitingly something that we are actively looking at right now with this changeover to hardbacks. Sort of the old mentality of, book is written by author, book is written by author, book is written by author, and then there's maybe, a couple scattered people doing back matter, doesn't necessarily hold true in this new dynamic. So with hardbacks, expect to see us play around with that. I know some projects that are currently even being outlined where we're playing around with that. So you might see some things that get a broader set of voices involved or narrow it down a bit. We're playing around with it a lot. We want to make sure, one of the things we want to make sure with as we change this is that we give an opportunity for more authors to get involved with Starfinder so that we can build up our freelancing pool, which is important to us to have different diverse voices, as well as people who can build up the skills necessary to continue to write for us. So absolutely something we are looking. Any updates for more Into the Perplexity? The Perplexity is on hold for a bit, but wait till next year? ? We didn't hear much about the Mech vs. Dragon adventure. All right, Jen, you want to talk about mechs versus dragons for a moment? Get it out of your system, please.
I know. I've just been waiting to talk about this.
Yeah. Here we go.
So Defy the Dragon, it is a module. It will start, it starts at 10th level, so you can play a character you've already been playing. You can make new characters at 10th level. It will take you from 10th to 13th by the end of the adventure. And essentially what it involves is you go to a planet, or you are already on this planet, depending on your background as a party. You'll discover that. You'll figure that out with your GM and other players. And you have this evil dragon that has kind of personally slighted you and everyone else on the planet, and you want to defeat her. So in order to do so, you'll need to find these 4 pieces of ancient technology that have been buried across this planet. Turns out they're mechs. You get to repair the mechs and fight the dragon, and of course other adventures along the way. Don't worry, it's not OP. I mean, we're talking mechs allow you to fight enemies up to like at least 3 CR higher than like what your player level, your average like party level would be, right? So if we're talking like 13th level characters with like these level 13 mechs or level 12 mechs, we're talking like you're fighting easily like a CR 17, 18 dragon. So don't worry, the dragon's fine. The dragon can hold her own, but you do need to defy her in this adventure. So please go forth and do so.
No spoilers. But defying the dragon might mean fighting the dragon with mechs.
Yeah, maybe. Just a little bit. It might mean punching and pew-pew missiling the dragon just a little. Yeah.
I've had so much fun with mechs. I got to play test the fight against the dragon. I mean, the defying of the dragon. And, it was very good. It was very good. A few more questions as I run through them here. Will the Scoured Stars AP be a period piece set in 317, 318, or a modern? It will be a period piece. In fact, one of the parts of the book might even talk about. Well, it does talk about. I just finished writing it. In fact, and this is where I've been conspiring with Jessica quite a bit, because I will be writing these sidebars that go into Scoured Stars, and then I will send them to Jessica and be like, please read over to make sure this is correct. Also, I just kind of want to brag that this is really cool and I'm sending this to you. But there are a lot of sidebars in there that talk about it as a period piece, and there'll be an intro section that talks about it as a period piece, because Scoured Stars originally happened when the core rulebook launched. So it really is a sort of launching pad adventure path that doesn't assume you have access to other products. And it does talk about in it some of the things like a Zadamar from Ports of Call that, like, okay, this thing might not actually be appropriate to exist in this adventure path. You might not want to have a player character that is worshipping Cadrical on this adventure path. There are a few little bits
Maybe
and bobs in there. Maybe not. So it is a period piece, and it's something, again, where we're we provide guidance for. Now that now that you're managing creative director, have you gone mad with power? Stay tuned to the end of this panel for my going mad with power.
He's been working on his villain laugh.
Yes. TLDR, have we announced anything besides new APs? Well, Ports of Call is the big book we announced during the keynote, and we talked a bit about earlier on in this panel. So that's going to provide a bunch of new player options, but really a lot of like GM options and sort of new areas. So yeah, look forward to that. Let's see what else we got here. Will we see support for Foundry, like Pathfinder has eventually? That's something we're definitely looking into. I know I'm a big Foundry user. I would love to see more Foundry. Whether or not we're getting that for Starfinder, we haven't announced anything just yet, though. So just stay tuned. Will Dead Sun's changes go to PDFs for people in separate volumes? I don't know. That'll sadly be a question for customer service people. I am not too aware of that. Let's see here. The hardcovers, are they going to have extra stuff? So like we got with individual books, yeah, I can tell you for Dead Sons that they have all the back matter articles from the original Dead Sons in that hardback, so that's pretty cool. And then in Scoured Stars, we've got some pretty neat back matter articles, maybe hinted at a few of those, like some new playable species and stuff that'll be going in there. We're going to be trying to keep up with back matter articles. They might start to change as we get a handle on how these hardback AP formats are working. But yeah, definitely something we are looking at is keeping that content if it existed, or making sure there is more than just the adventure in some of those. And please help me out, fellow panelists, if there's a question you want to hop in on. I am just kind of going through these. We got a lot of these right now.
I think we covered most of the ones I noticed earlier. Let's see.
Yeah. Love to see mechs. I mean, Defy the Dragon's gonna have your mechs. Trust me there. An Octurne or a Lovecraft Geiger Octurne book. Yeah, we've had a lot of love for Octurne out there, that's for sure, and it's something I think we might want to investigate. Here. Kishmo's asking, what is the here? This is one of those like I'm putting Jessica on the spot, and we'll see how she does. Pop quiz. What is the actual level of the Ehu Hadith PC Go?
What is the actual what?
The actual level of the player character of the
I
generic
have
First Seeker.
no idea. I don't even know whose character originally Aku Hadif was. I will say to anyone who has no idea what we're talking about, the
Thank
Starfinder
you.
Society at the end of your adventures takes there's like little checkbox and stuff is that you report to say what you did during an adventure, and then we use the results of that, and we use it to plan the future of future seasons and future scenarios. So eventually, the First Seeker always has a task to fulfill, their sort of their mission, their goal for their tenure, and when it's over, they step down. And when Luazi El Sibo stepped down, we search for a new First Seeker from among our own players. So if you got high enough level and influence within a certain faction, you got to put forth your character for the Starfinder developers at the time, which was definitely not me. And you got to, they sifted through and they picked out a couple favorites, and then the community got to vote on who would be the next First Seeker. So First Seeker Aku Hadif is our current one. I have no idea what level that PC currently is. I'm sorry. But he's been in there quite a while, so can't last forever.
New First Seeker, my gosh. Okay. Here is a good one. Playable species that maybe get some love in our in Interstellar Species. Which ones are we super excite bike for? I will start on
Same.
Dragonkin.
I'm
Wow.
just gonna shove some at you randomly. Dragonkin. I love them. I'm excited.
Damn, Dragonkin are pretty cool.
And Riforians, they're bonded. I got to develop actually both of those. They were very well done. Super excited about those. I did not write them though. Those were some other talented folks who did.
Fair. I mean, there's so many choices to pick from. Like, oh gosh, I mean, if I just started listing them off, it would be like I would be telling people what species would be showing up in the book. Like if I started with A and said Astrozoan, and then went to Astriapi, and then Cephalum, and then Contemplative, and well, Dragonkin was already mentioned. I mean, I've got this. Then there's Formians, and oh wait, maybe I shouldn't do anything. I'll skip an undisclosed number of letters. Something, SROs, Troxes, uplifted bears, what? Urogs? Those things are like silicon-based snake things. Like, oh my gosh, Blaka? Oh my god. There's so many. There's no Platyparian.
I'm really excited to see what they did with Urogs. They're very weird, and I'm really excited to. I haven't had a chance to deep dive into that part of it yet, but I want to read it.
Yes, definitely.
Jagububs, you mean Jabubnins, the best species ever introduced into Starfinder. The reason they didn't show up in Interstellar Species is because we will be releasing Interstellar Jabubnins. That will be the first book I will be spearheading as the managing director for Starfinder. The team doesn't know it yet, but it's happening. You asked if I was going mad with power. Well, here we are. But for real, Jabubnins. Yeah, see. I mean, given this panel, I would hope so. You've written everything else. Excellent. I'm Absalom Station, full high res maps in the future. I definitely there's some passion for Absalom Station content, and we have nothing to announce at this time on it, but I know there's some people who are interested in getting some stuff for it, and maybe getting some new cool things for it. So yeah. Okay, well, talked a lot about Interstellar Species. I think that's pretty cool. We've answered a good amount of questions here. I think we might want to be wrapping up because we're getting close to our wrap up point. I just there might be other things to talk about, but before we talk about that, I want to thank my fellow panelists for being here. I'm gonna pass it over to my coworker Jenny. Jenny, where can people find more about you and follow up from this amazing panel?
Hey, so yeah, I sometimes post on Twitter at spaceprincess_J, so you can find me there. Occasionally, I might be on Twitch on my own channel or guest starring on some silly GM's show. I don't know. Maybe one day we'll play games again. Anyhow, follow me on Twitter. I sometimes talk about Starfinder stuff.
Sweet. Jessica, what about you? Where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at D20Diaries.
That was very
Keeping it
succinct.
short.
Yeah,
Yep,
there you go.
keeping
There
it
you go.
short.
Nice. All right. Hi, Thurston Hillman. You can find me at all the things at On Call GM. I'm also becoming more active on the Starfinder subreddit and the forums, where I'm gonna do my best to answer questions and try to interact with our community as much as possible, because Starfinder is a game I'm super passionate about, and we all love. Now, with that being said, everybody, this is where we come into the point where, you're wondering how mad I've gone with power. Well, I have gone mad with power, everybody, because when we had these planning talks for these panels, I was like, Eric, my good friend, we're not telling them enough about what's coming out for Starfinder. We have to tell them more about what's coming out for Starfinder. And Eric's like, but Thirsty, that could be a year away. We can't tell them everything. I'm like, no, Eric, we have to tell them more of what's coming out for Starfinder. So how about we talk a little bit about what's coming out for Starfinder. Specifically, we're gonna do like a little Marvel tease, so to speak. These are just very, very, very high level teasers, folk, but gives you an idea of what direction we're moving in. We kind of want to keep this communication open going forward. So first off, I want to say one thing we have heard loud and clear is that people want, and heard this from chat throughout the weekend, heard it from the community for past several months even, more player options. More player options are coming. Can't talk about how or where, but brace yourselves. There's going to be player options. Now, another thing that I wanted to clarify and maybe lead into a little bit of a spoiler is when Eric was doing the keynote, there was some confusion about our switch to hardbacks into compilation. Specifically, I want to clarify a few points, which hopefully can be clarified here. Number one, they are not all going to be compilations of existing things, so don't worry. We are not just going to redo, like, Dawn of Flame or Attack of the Swarm, even though they're great adventure paths. That's not what this hardback change is going to be. And second of all, they are going to be organized play seasons. Again, we're gonna see how Scoured Stars does, and maybe we'll have some other things. But we do plan on using this hardback format change to allow us to explore some totally new ideas. And my good friend Jenny here is working on a totally new idea right now, which we cannot give you the name of. But Jenny, if our listeners out there were maybe wanting to research something for the next AP that will be coming after Scoured Stars, what do you think they should be researching?
I think that they need to get their tech revolution out, and I think that they need to brush up on their mech rules.
Oh.
You heard it here first.
Heard it here first. All right, folks, you heard it. Yeah, and that's all we're going to say about that. All right. So, that's it for us. Thank you all. We're going to duck out. Hopefully that wets your whistle for a whole bunch of Starfinder news. Don't worry, there is even more that I was just held down and prevented from telling you. But next time, there will be more, I promise. Thank you all for coming, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Bye!
Bye!